story time about how I found out that my boyfriend was cheating on me for 3 months straight at his new job. So whenever all this happened, I was a senior in high school and my boyfriend had just graduated. Oh, if I'm looking over here, it's because my mirror's over here because I actually want to see what I'm doing. And we were both living at his mom's because I had some family stuff going on at the time, so I was like staying there during the summer. Well, my boyfriend had to quit his job because they were shutting down and he had worked there for over 3 years. So he started looking for a new job and he found one that was literally 3 minutes down the street from his mom's house. And it was a sports bra and grill, so he started working there. Well, after working there for I think about a month, his brother had came home from jail. And his brother was looking for a job at the time whenever he got out of jail, so my boyfriend of course was like, hey, why don't you come work with me? And his brother was all for it, you know, he was excited to be working with his brother. Well, I want to say about 2 weeks after his brother went to work with him, he came home the one night and he had told me about this one girl who had given him her phone number, and he took it out of his pocket and it was a piece of paper with her phone number on it. So my boyfriend and I had had problems in the past with like trust issues and stuff like that, but at this time I had kind of gotten over it because it happened a long time ago when we first started dating. So whenever this happened, my trust issues started to creep back in, you know, because I started thinking, well, why did she feel comfortable enough giving you her phone number to talk about her problems with you? Because that's the reason why she apparently gave him her phone number, was so that way they could talk about her problems. Sis, get a therapist. There is no reason for that. Anyways, so of course this pisses me off. I tell him to throw the phone number away, and I asked him what the girl's name was, and he said her name was Sadie. And of course after that, Sadie was #1 on my hit list. Just kidding. Well, after that, he starts going into work really early and staying very late. And whenever I had talked with him about it, he was always blaming it on somebody else or something else. He would be like, well, I had to close tonight because nobody else wanted to stay and close. Somebody didn't do their job right tonight, so I had to stay and do their job. And it was just really weird because, you know, you would expect that to happen maybe like not so often, but it was literally happening every single day that he had work. So yeah, at that point things were just getting very weird and it was making me question a lot of things. Well, then the next red flag that happened that I should have noticed was that he started having issues with me dropping him off and picking him up from work. Because I had always dropped him off and picked him up at work. For some reason, he like started having an issue with it. He was like, no, he was like, I can do it myself, like, you know, you don't need to do that. And so of course that also was weirding me out because that's weird. Why are you just gonna start having a problem with me picking you up and dropping you off at work? And he was the one with the car, so that meant that I was literally stuck at his parents' house all day and I didn't have a car. Well, the one day I remember I had begged him to use the car because I had some errands to run that day, and he let me use the car. So like I said, he let me drop him off and used the car that day. Well, when I went to pick him up that night, there were these 3 girls sitting outside, and there was one specifically that was giving me an absolute death stare. You would have thought that I literally like screwed her boyfriend. Yeah, no, but she was just like giving me a really nasty look, and I had no idea why, but I just kind of ignored it. Well, a few days after that, my boyfriend and his brother got into this huge argument because my boyfriend had told me that his brother was flirting with girls at work. And at the time, his brother's girlfriend was like one of my best friends. Love her, by the way. So what did I do? Of course I told her. Like, why am I not going to tell her? So I went and told her. So she was flipping out on her boyfriend. And can I just say something? I don't think that he was flirting with other girls at work. I really think that it was just a ploy for my boyfriend to kind of get the attention off of him onto his brother and the fact that he was doing things wrong. So of course I told her, and they got into a big argument. We're gonna call my boyfriend like Derek or something. Yeah, we're gonna call him Derek. So his brother calls me, and he was flipping out on Derek before that, and he calls me and he says, right hand up to God, Derek is screwing a girl named Sadie at work. I'm literally freaking out on my boyfriend, but I don't know who to believe, because the thing is like, they are always playing pranks on each other. You know, you don't know when they're serious. They'll literally like make these jokes up, you know, say, oh yeah, like she's cheating on you with blah 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 blah, as a joke. Anyways, so what do? I do what any reasonable girlfriend would do. I go into my boyfriend's room and I start screaming at him. And he had been texting his brother, and I told him, I said, let me see your text messages between you and your brother. And before he gives me his phone, he literally swipes over and deletes the conversation between him and his brother. So I went over and I grabbed his computer, which is connected to his phone. Like, the text messages go onto his computer also. So I grab his computer and I look at the text on there. And it still looked like some were missing, but the only thing that it said was, please don't do it. My boyfriend had sent that to his brother. So now I'm obviously very, very sketched out, but my dumbass is still believing him. Love that for me. So because I'm a dumbass, I end up believing my boyfriend, and that night I was just so pissed off. I told him, hey, like, I'm gonna go to my friends tonight. Like, I can't be around you. I need time to think. Well, fast forward, I guess him and his brother stopped fighting, and his brother told me, he was like, yeah, no, I was lying about the whole thing. Like, he didn't do anything. He's very loyal to you. Whatever. But yeah, that was the end of that situation. So we hadn't really talked about it again after that. I was still having like inklings that like he was cheating on me, which were totally correct, and I find out every single time, so I don't even know why he lies to me about it. So yeah, that situation was over and done with. So a month after that whole situation, fall time rolls around. My boyfriend moves out of his parents' house. I couldn't move out yet because I was not 18, and that's whenever him and I started having troubles in our relationship, even more than we did before. He just was not caring about me and how I felt in the relationship. He never wanted to be around me. He would always choose his friends over me. So at that point, I had just had enough and I broke up with him. Did I want to get back with him 2 hours after I broke up with him? Yes. Did I? No. I decided that I was going to be a strong, independent woman at that time. So I decided, why not make a Tinder? Was I underage? Yes. Did I put jailbait in my bio? Yes, I did. So that's that. I pretty much made a Tinder. And I guess literally the day after I made mine, one of Derek's friends decided to tell Derek to make a Tinder also. So he makes a Tinder, and the first person he sees on there is me. So I left school early that day, and I get a text message from Derek saying, you are such a whore. So at that point, I'm like really pissed off. I'm like, I don't care, like, do what you want. Like, sorry that you're angry that I'm deciding to move on. Like, not my fault. By the way, if you ever break up with your boyfriend, get a Tinder. That shit is a confidence boost. You will literally have all these guys telling you that you're so hot, and it's so nice to just reject them. So I guess my bad bitch parade had ended because I got really lonely the one night, and I had texted him asking what he was doing, and he pretty much said nothing. So what did I do? I went to his house, and when I was there, we had talked about things, and I asked him, I said, I want to know the truth about everything. I said, I already know half of what's going on, but I want to know what you meant by that text message. I didn't know anything, by the way. This kid literally just told on himself every single time that he cheated on me. He was literally so freaking dumb. He says there was this girl at work, and I said, what's her name? He told me her real name now, and I said, did you do the nasty with her? And he said, yeah. I said, how many times? And at this time, I'm kind of like holding back my tears because my boyfriend was a sociopath, and if he saw you putting out any emotion, he would base his emotion off of that. So anytime that he cries too, I literally just ignore him because he just does it to make you feel bad instead of actually crying because he feels bad. So I'm sitting there with a straight face, and I'm like, you know, how many times, where, when, like blah 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 blah. He says, I don't know how many times. And at that point, that already makes me think, oh great, like you were going into work every single day and screwing this girl while you were there. Nice. I slept there that night because it was like, it was too late for me to go home. No, he did not do anything. I literally slept on the couch. He slept in his bedroom because I was not about to do that. But I made him think that I was fine with it. Like, you know, I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, like, it's in our past, just promise you'll never hurt me again. So the next day, I wake up and I go to school. I left school early that day. I went home, I went to my dad's house, and I pretty much just stayed home for majority of the day. And that night I had found that girl on Snapchat, which was very stupid of me because I am all about not blaming the girl. Like, before I had such like a nasty mentality of it was the girl's fault, not the guy's, which is totally not the case. So I will never ever go off on a girl if I ever find out that my boyfriend is cheating on me with a girl, because it's just, they're not the one in your committed relationship. So I find this girl on Instagram and I find her on Snapchat, and like I said, I add her on Snapchat, and when I see her Instagram bio is literally, I'm your boyfriend's favorite. Her pictures are all captioned stuff about screwing girls' boyfriends. I didn't know that was a trend, but actually a lot of girls like to do that. I think like a few weeks ago, this girl was talking on the phone saying how she loves fucking guys with boyfriends. Love that for you, sis, just not for me. So at that point, I'm getting really angry because when I'm looking on all these photos, like her captions are literally just disgusting. And I add her on Snapchat, and I text her and I say that, you know, like, you're nasty, you're a whore, blah, 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 blah. Just like me being any jealous, insecure girlfriend. And I let the emotions get the best of me that night. But it was really funny because, like, she was talking to me and she was like, it's not my fault your boyfriend wanted to screw me, and you know, it's not my fault that I'm better looking than you, blah 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 blah, just this, that, and the next. So like, I'm really letting this girl get under my skin. Like, I'm like really pissed off. Like, at this point, I really wanted to go to this girl's house and just like do some very not nice things. So soon enough, I find out that the owner of the restaurant that he was working at, that's his daughter. So I'm ready to literally call their work and be like, your daughter's a whore. Like, she's literally screwing people in your back kitchen and stuff like that where the food is. But instead, I just block her on Snapchat because I knew that I was letting my emotions get the best of me. And I sneak out of my dad's house that night and go to my friend's house. Well, when I went to my friend's house, her boyfriend was best friends with my boyfriend. This is not his brother's girlfriend, by the way. This is just one of my best friends. And her boyfriend decides to come clean on some things that my boyfriend had told him. And he's like, yeah, no, like, he always was telling me about how when he would go into work, there would be these girls all over him. He was screwing 2 girls at work every single day whenever he went in there. So at this point, I'm literally livid. Like, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I feel like the worst part about it all was the fact that because I had so many trust issues from him in the past, he was coming home like every night, and like when I would talk to him about how I was feeling, about how, you know, I was having doubts, you know, about him being faithful, he would be like, I don't know why you feel like that. Like, I've been so loyal. Like, I'm actually so proud of myself because I haven't done anything wrong. After that, I call and I tell him that I pretty much know everything, and I found out the reason why everything happened the way it did. So he was going into work early and staying later so he could screw this girl at work, actually these 2 girls at work, and the reason why he did not want me picking him up and dropping him off was because apparently this girl had a plan to come to the car and beat my ass because she wanted my boyfriend. So yeah, pretty much after that, everything started making sense and him and I broke up, but my dumb ass got back together with him. So yeah, ladies, if you see red flags and you think he's cheating on you, he probably is, and he's probably dumb enough to tell on himself, so make sure to trick him into telling you. I love you guys so much, and let me know if you like this video. If you do, then I will start posting more story times on YouTube. So yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see when I post my next video, click that bell, and if you just want to see more of me, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Love you guys. So a little background information. It was the summer before my freshman year of high school, and my best friend and I had been hanging out all summer. Now, my best friend and I had been friends since we were in 7th grade, which isn't that long. Well, just a backstory on kind of me and her. Her family was very wealthy. Mine was not. We were really poor. It was just my mom and my sister and I. My dad had left us when whenever we were younger, and her parents were still together, and she had always been a really good friend. Just like always there for me, very supportive of things that would go on in my home life. Anytime I needed her, she would be there for me. So like I said, my dad had left us, but like he would come home at random times and just like kind of start things with my family. So anytime that would go on at home, I would go and I would stay with her and her family until my mom got him out of the house. The one thing that both of us had in common was that our parents were kind of strict. Hers less than mine. My mother was very strict about who I hung out with, me hanging out with boys, of course. Her parents, they would let her hang out with boys, but it was more like, just like call us, check in, you know, we want to FaceTime with you. Well, 8th grade is whenever her and I started hanging out with boys, and this is whenever she started to become toxic. Now, I wasn't allowed to hang out with boys still, but of course me going over her house, boys were allowed over her house. She was also the friend that had the parties and stuff like that because she had a big house. You know, her parents had an attic just for her, like a hangout, I guess, but she would always have parties up there. And yes, we were in 8th grade at the time, but they weren't parties where there was alcohol and other stuff, at least not yet. Well, not only was she toxic, but she was kind of becoming like a pick-me girl. We all know what they are. We know who they are. She was definitely one of them. Anytime that she would throw one of these parties, I would get ready at her house. She would do my makeup as best as she could. And she would also help me pick out the best outfit. Yeah. And at the time, I didn't know how to do makeup. Now, personally, I never put that much work into my physical appearance. So whenever she would offer to do my makeup and my hair and help me pick out outfits, I was super excited. I was like, oh my gosh, like she looks so good. She's gonna make me look really good like she does. Yeah, that just was not the case and definitely not what she had in mind. Anytime that she would help me pick out my outfit, I was really appreciative until I started realizing that she would pick out the shittiest outfit, do my makeup absolutely terrible, so that way I wouldn't look good in front of the guys. That went on pretty much that whole 8th grade year. Now it is the summer of my freshman year, and she went on vacation for almost a month. And during that month, I started hanging out with one of my other friends. And her and I were getting ready for this party that one of our friends was throwing. And we got ready at my house. My mom, she was a little less strict at this point, thank God. And she goes into my closet and she's like, oh my God. She's like, why haven't you worn this to any of the other parties that we went to? And I'm like, well, we're gonna call my best friend Amy. I was like, well, Amy said that they looked like really bad and that I would embarrass myself if I wore that stuff. Now looking back on it, clearly not, because she would literally tell me that a shirt looked terrible on me, then put it on and tell her, oh, it looks better on me. Okay, sis. I see you out here. She was like, no, what are you talking about? She was like, I think she was telling you those things on purpose so that way she would look better than you. Now, me, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, no way. Like, you're out of your mind. She would never do that to me. Her and I have been best friends. So I was like, no, like, she wouldn't do that. And she was like, well, that's funny. She was like, because she would make fun of you to all of us about what you were wearing, how bad your makeup looked, and everything like that. So at this point, I'm still really not believing her. I still think that Amy's like some saint who came down and saved me from embarrassing myself. So after I went, got myself some new makeup, got myself some new clothes, I started taking care of myself more in a physical aspect. Well, when Amy came home from the Bahamas, she threw another party. She invited me over to get ready, of course. She's like, oh, I can do your makeup and do your hair. And I'm like, no, that's fine. I got it. After that, she gives me this really weird look. She's like, okay, well, it's probably not going to look that good. You don't really know how to do makeup or do your own hair. Well, after I'm done doing my makeup and I do my hair and I pick out my own outfit, after she's done getting ready, she looks at me and she's like, no. She's like, you can't be serious with that outfit. And I'm like, I kind of am. She's like, I just feel so bad because I don't want you to get made fun of. You don't look good. So she pretty much just starts arguing with me at this point. And she just starts saying a lot of rude things. And I look at her and I'm like, why would you say those things? She's like, no, I'm not trying to be mean. She was like, you just don't look good. She was like, I want you to look good. I want you to find a boy that likes you. So after about 20 minutes of arguing with her, she finally gave up on trying to talk me into taking my makeup off and putting a different outfit on. Like, sis wanted me to take a whole shower. She was like, listen, like, we'll push off the party till later. So people start showing up, things are going fine until like the middle of the night. Her sister had just turned 21 and for these parties she would get alcohol from her sister. And of course I would drink because I would just sleep over her house and then the next day go home. And anytime she would throw these parties she would get super drunk. Like, sis for some reason did not want to deal with life. So she's really drunk. I'm talking to this guy that I really like, that I have been Snapchatting, and she starts acting like a bitch. She starts bringing up things about how my family is poor and about how she took me on so many vacations, and every time that my crackhead dad comes back to my house she has to open her house up and let me in. So of course I leave the conversation. I walk away from him and her because I tried defending myself saying, well, you didn't have to do that. And she goes, well, it's not like you made me feel like I had a choice. You made yourself look like a charity case. So like I said, I walk away from the conversation and I just decided to call my mom that night. I hadn't been drinking. I wanted to go home. So my mom comes and picks me up. I don't answer her messages for a few days after that. And then she shows up at my house and my mom lets her in because I didn't tell my mom anything about what had went on because I did not want my mom to hate her. So she walks into my bedroom. I didn't know that my mom had let her in and I'm pretty much just like, what the hell are you doing at my house? She's like, well, I wanted to see if you were okay. Like, you haven't been answering my messages or anything. So she sits in my room while I ignore her for about an hour, and just to get her to leave I finally tell her why I am so pissed off at her. So after pretty much I tell her what she did wrong, she starts playing the victim and the I don't know what you're talking about. She goes, OMG, you have to be lying. And I'm like, nope, you said all those things. She's like, well, I don't want you to get mad for me saying this, but I really feel like this is your fault. And I'm like, what do you mean this is my fault? She goes, it's your fault. Like, why would you let me drink that much in the first place? Like, you weren't even keeping an eye on me. Like, I would have kept an eye on you if you were drinking like I was. Like, it's really unfair that you're gonna sit here and blame me whenever you're the one in the wrong. Who lets their friend drink that much and then gets mad at them for saying something? Like, who lets their friend drink that much anyways? So, once again, she made me feel like I was the bad guy without knowing it. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, like, I really am a bad friend. Like, I shouldn't have let her get that drunk. If she's my best friend, it was my job to keep an eye on her. Like I said, pretty much just letting her guilt trip me, and I am a dumbass for thinking that it was my fault, but I did. So I'm like, you're right, it's all my fault, I'm so sorry. Because she starts bringing up some serious crap. She's like, what if I was sexually assaulted by a guy? It would have been your fault. So I apologize to her and we move on. Well, this was right before school had started. I had been working all summer to save up for these pair of shoes that I wanted, and they were $1,000. I had saved up for them all by myself, and I was super excited to wear them to the party that she was throwing. And she had threw parties before this party that's coming up, and she would still act like an ass, but I just let it go. So a few hours before her party, we had went to the mall and she went and did her thing, I went and did mine, and I bought those shoes. They were $1,000. Well, when we got back to her house and started started getting ready. I put my shoes on right before the party started, and she looks at them and she goes, "You really just copy my style, don't you?" And I say to her, "What are you talking about? Like, I've wanted these for a while." And she goes, "No, it's fine. Don't worry about it." And then she goes, "How did you even afford those? Did you steal them?" And I kind of just brush off that question, don't really answer it, you know, I'm like, no, and I laugh about it. Well, that night, she like keeps stepping on the back of my shoes. That night, she decides to dig in worse than she ever did before. So I'm standing with a group of our friends, and there are a few guys there that like we've never met before. One of our friends asked if they could bring them. We said yeah, of course. So I'm standing there and I'm exchanging Snapchats with these guys, and she comes over to me, and she didn't drink that much because I was keeping an eye on her like I was told to. So we're standing there and she's like, "So what, did you like spend all your mom's rent money on those shoes?" And I'm just like, there was dead silence. Literally all you could hear was the fucking music in the back. And I'm like, "No, I bought them myself." And she's like, "Oh yeah, that's right." She was like, "That's why you weren't able to make it to the past few parties, because you were working at McDonald's to buy those shoes." And I was like, yup, yeah, you're right. Like, I was. Like, I told you that. Like, so it gets really awkward, and then thankfully one of my girlfriends changes the subject. And then she decides to bring something else up. She goes, "It's funny you can afford to buy that whenever you couldn't afford a plane ticket to come to the Bahamas with me this year." And at this point, nobody really knows what to say, because like nobody wants to be kicked out of her party, but at the same time, it's like everybody was waiting for me to stick up for myself. And I was not confrontational at all. So I hated whenever people fought. I hated whenever people tried to start stuff with me. She goes, "Gia, please tell her that that outfit does not look good. I tried telling her before the party started, but like it really just seems like she's trying to take my style. Like, Gia, isn't she taking my style? Isn't that something that I would totally wear?" I was wearing a black crop top with some low-waisted jeans. But yeah, I stole her style. And Gia just stands there and laughs because, again, it's hella awkward. So at this point, Gia's like, I'm gonna go get a drink. The boys follow her. Everybody else follows her. And I'm standing there and I'm asking her, I'm like, "Why are you being a bitch?" And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "You literally just brought up the fact that I was poor in front of everybody. You also brought up the fact that I look like a whore." And she was like, "OMG, like I was literally joking, babe." Yeah, she said babe. And then she was like, "Oh, like, are you embarrassed about that?" And I'm like, "Well, it's definitely not something that I want everybody knowing." And she goes, "OMG, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't think that you were embarrassed about your family or where you came from." Yeah, she did that. And I was like, "I'm really not." I was like, "But that's not something that you tell somebody you don't even know." And she was like, "I'm sorry. Like, I won't bring it up again. Like, you should have told that to me." So once again, I forgive her and we move on. Well, earlier she yelled at me for not letting her have anything else to drink, so I let her start drinking again, and she got really drunk and she came up to me and she was like, she started again, except this time it wasn't around anybody, it was just to me. She was like, "Why do you like copy everything that I do?" And I'm like, "I don't. What the hell are you talking about?" And she goes, "Well, it's just like with the shoes, like I had saw those a week ago online and I wanted them." And I was like, "Okay, you never told me that you wanted them. Like, what's the problem?" And she's like, "I just think that like that's like copying me and you need to return them." Well, I said no. She was like, "Then I'm gonna throw up on them." Later, she tells me that she needs to throw up, so I take her over to the trash can that she had, and I was like, "Okay, you can throw up in here." Tell me why this bitch takes her head out of the trash can when she's about to throw up and throws up all over my brand new $1,000 shoes. So at this point, I'm sitting there and I'm debating whether I should stab her or not. She looks at my shoes and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." She was like, "Hopefully working at your job you can afford another pair." Oh sis. So you're probably wondering what the hell I did after that. After that, I punched her in the face.
I punched her in the face, and at this point everybody's just looking. And after I punch her in the face, like, she's on the ground, like, she's like crying, she's like, OMG, like, you just hit me, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, she was like, over $1,000 pair of shoes. She was like, that's not even that much money. She was like, you could literally save up for those working at McDonald's in like 5 months. After she said that, I was just gonna leave it at that. I was just gonna punch her in the face, you know, we would talk about it the morning after, and, you know, I would tell her parents and they were gonna buy me a new pair of shoes. So what did I do after that? She's sitting on the floor and she's making all these comments, and I decide that I am going to tip the trash can, which 5 other kids were puking in that night. I tipped over the trash can onto her. It literally went all over her outfit. It was like on her chin. It was fucking gross. So fucking gross. Like, the one kid was literally sitting over that trash can for probably an hour and a half, letting it all out. So then she starts crying and saying that I needed to leave her party because I was a psycho bitch who was also poor. So, you know, she's going on about this while I'm about to walk out of the door. She should have just shut her mouth. So what do? I go back over there and I push her right back down into the puke. Pretty much after that, we didn't talk for a while. It was like maybe 2 weeks passed, and I think she had got the message whenever I pretty much was like, not texting her or anything like that, that I didn't give a fuck if we became friends or not again. So she showed up at my house like a month later, and she showed up with a brand new pair of shoes for me, and she's apologizing, saying that she was jealous that I was doing my makeup better than she did hers, dressing better than she did, and stuff like that, and that more boys liked me instead of her. So I forgave her, and ever since then we have never had a problem again, and that was about 3 years ago. So all she needed pretty much was her ass beat, and now we're best friends again, and we are way better than we ever were before. All right, everybody, so that is the end of this story time. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to my channel and you like these story time, click that subscribe button because I'm doing them every week. Also, if you want to see when I post a new video, click that bell. And if you would like me to do your anonymous story time, DM me on Instagram. And if you guys want to keep up with me on any of my other social medias, they are linked down below. And I'm going to go and take this makeup off now, so I love you guys, and I will see you the next time. Okay, back to the story. Alright, so a few things before we get started on this story time today. If you are new here and you have never seen a story time, for most of the time I will be looking over here because my mirror is over here and I would like to see what I am doing. Also, I do tell these story times in a first-person point of view, and this story time was sent in by an anonymous user. Another thing before we get into this video, I like to wipe my face off before I do my makeup. It just makes me feel better about my skin being more clean, I guess, because you never want to put makeup on if you are oily or you have old makeup on your face. That's gross. We don't do that here. Story time about how I was dating the school shooter. Yeah. This one is most likely going to be a wild one, so buckle in, guys. So a little background information. So at the time, I was a sophomore in high school, so I was around 15 or 16 when this all happened. Well, one day in October, I was sitting at lunch with my friends, and they had dared me to go sit with the shy kid. And of course I did, because they had offered me $10. Well, when I went over there and sat with him, we started having a conversation, and I realized he was actually a really nice kid. And another thing, he was extremely hot, guys. Now, I had seen him around school before, but I never saw what his face looked like because he was always wearing a hoodie. So besides my friends daring me to talk to him this one time, we actually had started talking more after that, which of course led to us hanging out with each other. And eventually he had came out and said that he liked me, and I had told him that I liked him too. Can you guys hear the birds outside? I'm so sorry if you can hear them. They're just chirping away out there. So I said that I liked him too, and then we started dating. And to be honest, it was the perfect relationship. So fast forward, we had been dating for 6 months, and at this time I felt like he trusted me a lot, because he started telling me how much he hated this one group of girls. Come to find out, this group of girls that he hated oh so much turned out to be my friends. You know, the ones that had dared me to go over and talk to him. Yeah. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're probably like, well, how doesn't he know those are your friends? I had never told him that these were my friends because my friend group was considered controversial, if that's the right word. Which of course at first I just brushed it off because, you know, everybody has somebody that they dislike in high school, or a group of people that just annoy them. Well then, for hours this kid would go on about how much he hated these girls. He went as far to say that he wants to kill them. Yeah. What would you guys do in that situation? Now, before you guys say anything, him and I have a very sarcastic sense of humor. So, you know, at first I had thought that he was just joking, but as he would talk about it more and more, he started sounding more and more serious. Well, finally, after 10 months of dating, he tells me that he wants to shoot up the school. And he told me his entire plan and how he was going to make this happen. So what did I do? I recorded the whole thing, especially with everything going on today. Now, this wasn't just like one day while I was over at his house, you know, he told me this plan. He had explained this to me over the phone. Now, after I had got off the phone with him, I started typing out an email to literally all of the office staff at my school, because in that situation I didn't know whether to call the police or if he was even really that serious. But sadly I never finished the email because I had fell asleep that night. Well, when I woke up the next morning, I realized that I had never finished the email. So I quickly finished up the email and I hit send, even though I pretty much knew that it was too late because all of the office staff had meetings the next day, but I still had hope that it would get through to somebody. Well, after I had a feeling that that didn't work, I told all my friends not to go to school that day and to find a way to tell the principal what was going on. Well, I had a feeling at that time that class had already started because nobody was answering my messages, sadly. So at this point, I was desperate and I had ridden my bike to school. I already missed the bus. By the time I got there, second period had already started. So as soon as I got into the school, I ran to the principal's office, but none of them were in there. What a coincidence, right? Like the day that you have something very, very important to tell all the office staff and stuff like that, none of them are there. That is just like, I feel like low key, that is the type of luck that I would have in my life. It's just terrible luck. It's like when you think of the worst that could happen, that's the worst. Anyways, back to the story. Like I said, when I got in there, nobody there. Zilch, not a person in sight.
Well, right after I ran in there and realized nobody was there, I heard gunshots and screaming in the hallways. So I hurried up, grabbed my phone, called 911, and after I had ran into the teacher's bathroom, and I was in there for a good 3 hours. Now, of course, me never being in this situation, I would imagine that the reason why I was there for 3 hours was because, you know, of course the police are going to go in and check all of the classrooms and try to get the children out of the building safely, but also they have to find the person with the gun. So the police search the school, they find me in the bathroom. After that, I spent 6 painful days at the police station, talking about no other than my boyfriend. I went through interrogations and a lot of other crap, which is expected, obviously. Still to this day, I feel very guilty about the fact that I could have saved so many lives in this situation. And you are probably wondering, no, none of my friends died. I didn't move away after this. One of my friends did get shot, but she was incredibly lucky. She survived it, unlike a lot of others. Alright, thank you everybody for tuning into another story time. I'm very excited to announce that I have a new posting schedule for story times on my YouTube. I will be posting every Monday and Friday. I figured so that way you guys could look forward to something after school on Monday, because we all know that Mondays are complete garbage. And Friday, so that way, you know, the weekend's starting, why not just get ready, do your makeup with one of my story times. So make sure to hit that bell to get notified when I post my new story time. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are new here and you would like to see more of me, click that subscribe button. And if you just want to keep up with me in general, follow me on my social medias. They are all linked down below. But other than that, I will see you guys on Friday. Love you guys.